So, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the participants joining us from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We'll be taking the next hour to have a discussion on how Salesforce can be leveraged to digitize the sales safety operations. We'll be discussing some of the trends in the industry, some of the challenges being faced, and how to overcome these using technology. We want this session to be interactive session, so please feel free to ask your questions in Zoom Q&A box, and we'll be answering them either via chat or course of we'll cover them in the course of our discussion. We'll also have about 10 minutes at the end for Q&A session. So just to let you know, folks, we are recording this event, and recording will be on updated on our website soon. So once again, thank you all for finding time to attend today's Lunch and Learn event. My name is Ajit Patil. I'm a PharmD doctor. I've served a tertiary care hospital as part of my housemanship prior joining Cloudbiz. So I work here at Cloudbiz as a subject matter expert, imparting industry-specific knowledge in product management and product enhancement activities. Alongside the clinical trial space, I educated myself in Salesforce domain, having 3 certifications in this technology as of now. So that's about me. We have a special guest today, our CEO, Mr. Dinesh Kashyap, joining us from USA, Chicago. Hi, Dinesh. Good morning. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Ajit. Hello, everyone. My name is Dinesh Kashyap. I'm one of the co-founder of Cloudbiz. I'm super excited to have this discussion with you all to learn and share our experience, helping our customers in digitizing the medical device safety operations. Look forward to our discussion.
Thank you so much, Dinesh. We have our colleague, Dushyant Raichur, who is project lead and safety implementation expert. Dushyant, would you like to introduce?
Thank you so much, Dr. Ajit. Hey, folks, my name is Dushyant Raichur, and as Dr. Ajit said, I am a project lead and safety implementation specialist here at Cloudbiz. I work with our clients through all kind of stages of our methodology to make sure that our solutions are meeting their business and technology needs. So super excited to have this conversation with you all here today and kind of go through some of the things that Dr. Ajit has laid out. So thank you all for joining. So with that, thank you so much, Dr. Ajit. Let's kind of go ahead and get started, folks. All right, so I just want to give a quick overview about Cloudbiz and kind of who we are and what we do. So Cloudbiz offers innovative end-to-end solutions built on the Salesforce cloud platform to address all the needs and the challenges that are present in the clinical research space. So we have an entire product portfolio from our CTMS to our EDC to our patient recruitment solution, ETMF, basically any and all operations that are happening in regards to health and life sciences, especially in the clinical trial space. Cloudbiz has as a solution that is 100% built on the cloud and 100% native to Salesforce. We were founded in 2014, and we currently have a global team. We have offices right now in Toronto, Canada, Chicago, Illinois, and Los Angeles, California. So, our team is just over 105 employees right now. Like I said, we are kind of globally distributed. One thing that we take pride in is our compliance, both from the solution end and from our employees, right? So our solution follows the 21 CFR Part 11 compliance, as well as HIPAA, GAMP5 and GXP. Our company has been awarded the ISO 27001 certification as well. And the 100% of our workforce is certified in GCP and HIPAA. So that's just a quick blurb about us over here at Cloudbiz. All right, so as Dr. Ajit said in the intro, the first part of this presentation is really going to be talking about some of the trends that we're seeing in the safety industry. Now, this is coming from both our market research as well as our experience being implementation partners for many players in the safety industry. Right. So the first trend, folks, that I'd really like to key in on today is talking about unifying data in the cloud to provide for real-time visibility into safety operations. Those of us who have worked in the medical device safety space know that oftentimes data is separated and it's siloed across multiple systems. So some of our our partners out there in the industry, they may be using an EDC database to capture certain data. They may be having data housed in different spreadsheets, trackers. They may be using a system like SharePoint, right, for their source document management. And they may be having their post-market surveillance or experimental data or other types of data that lives still in another separate system, right? So when we have all of these different places where perhaps our users have to go or perhaps management has to keep an eye on, it brings up multiple challenges. So one of the things that we've heard out there in the industry is how challenging it can be to comply with strict data regulations. And we know that they're getting stricter every day, right? So by having a single cloud-based system, many of these companies in the medical device space are seeing much easier time to with their compliance, right, with their safety data. And they're also really happy, management and C-suite is always happy to be able to, eliminate redundant systems in their IT stack, right, and their associated costs in favor of going with a single cloud-based system. So instead of paying for 4 or 5 different perhaps databases or third-party systems, you just have one singular cloud-based system. And obviously, when we can do that, right, when we can bring all of these disparate data into one place, it provides both management and our safety kind of users with the 360-degree visibility into the full suite of operations, right? So the end-to-end process can all be done in just one place. It saves clicks, it saves time, and it saves resource hours. Right, and fourth, and finally, obviously, it also provides a simplified workflow. Instead of logging into 3 systems every single day, you just have to log into 1. So that is one of the first trends that we've seen, and something that we're seeing out there in the marketplace in a big way is kind of going to the cloud and unifying kind of multiple different data systems. So the second trend that kind of builds off of the first one is the ability to automate our safety workflows for efficient event processing. A big pain point, if not the major pain point in safety, as many of you folks may know, is the fact that there are always growing operational costs because of how complex and how sometimes inefficient our safety workflows can be, right? So we're seeing a big pivot in the industry to kind of make sure that our safety workflows, some of it can be automated away. So let me take an example right here, right? So let's say that you have a case that is coming in through your case intake process. It's being triaged, it's being looked at by your team, right? And it gets coded or it gets adjudicated to be an adverse event, right? So at that point, right, we're seeing industry players kind of leveraging our system or Salesforce to be able to say, okay, as soon as a case goes into the status of this, we think this is an adverse event, automatically 5 different tasks can be generated and notifications can be sent out to the users. Say, hey, you have a task, you have to QC the narrative, you have to get the source documents, and management is alerted immediately when there is a new adverse event. So these kinds of things, these kinds of ways to automate some of our notifications or kind of automate away some of our tasks are becoming very popular because companies are finding that it helps them both lower operational costs, but also decrease the possibility of human error, right? We're kind of taking some of that variability out of our process. Not only that, they're seeing that they can simplify some of these case triage or some of these event processing times, right? To make their operations faster, as well as more lean, because they can kind of eliminate any redundant steps that may be present in their current workflows by kind of iterating and using these automations. So that's the second trend that we've really seen that's becoming popular in the medical device space. The third trend here is leveraging data analytics to help drive actionable insights. So we know that data is the name of the game when we're talking about device safety, right? So, and we think of data in kind of 3 different ways, and we think there's 3 different levels, if you will, to how we can use data to help make our processes more efficient and lean, and help us kind of do our job in a faster, more efficient way. The base, the most basic level is what we call as operational metrics. In other words, these kind of metrics can help kind of measure how effectively or how quickly or how efficiently cases are being adjudicated, right? So how long does it take from when a case comes in to when it is kind of processed by the medical team, right? How many days, how many hours is that process taking? If a case goes from intake and it's coded as an adverse event, how long does it take for the team to kind of go through the end-to-end adverse event process until they can kind of close it out and report it to regulatory? Those kinds of questions can be answered using operational metrics. Obviously, the answers that we gain there can help these companies and help our partners kind of make sure that they're staying fast and efficient and making sure that they're hitting their timelines when it comes to processing their events. The second level kind of really comes from the analytics, right? So these are kind of places where we can kind of define clinical endpoints and have kind of data that can kind of answer those, right? So many of our partners are heavily into the pre-market and the post-market kind of space. So that means that they are dealing with clinical studies, right? So we kind of see analytics as a way to help kind of answer some questions like for a given product, how many AEs are there? How many device deficiencies are there? How many UADEs are there, right? For a given study, for a given site, etc. Right, so kind of being able to break down and go one step further, not just talking about your operations, but talking about the actual data that you're really kind of capturing in the system. The third piece of this is signal detection. So we know that signal detection is a very, very important part of any kind of safety operation, right? And so we know that that is to help us kind of find novel patterns, correlations, and trends, right? To help kind of gain insights into, things like the causal mechanisms for our AEs or our DDs. But what we're seeing is a huge pivot, kind of using the same statistical processes that are kind of part and parcel right now, but also leveraging AI and machine learning to kind of go a little bit deeper and seeing how much more information we can find, right? And so that's really the trend. And you can really only leverage AI and machine learning if all your data is housed in one place. And obviously using a cloud-based system really kind of helps you with that. So that's the trends that we've seen in regards to data analytics. The fourth and final trend I'd like to talk to you all about today is streamlining regulatory submissions to increase efficiency. So another kind of pain point or challenge that we've seen kind of being, a trusted implementation partner is that oftentimes these regulatory reports are something of a pain to sometimes generate. It can take 3 to 4 different people working on it together, right, to be able to generate some of these reports. And I'm talking about things like the MDCG or the MedDev tables, right? A MedWatch 3500 form, the MIR FSCA FSN if you're dealing with the European regulatory agencies, right? And kind of reports like that. Oftentimes it can be something of a pain point and something of a choke point in your workflows. And so being able to generate this data, right, or these reports upon the click of a button is a huge time saver, right, for our partners out there in the industry. But not just that, what we've seen in the regulatory landscape is a change where more and more we're going towards the e-file, right, and online databases to file out regulatory reports. So things like the MedWatch 3500 has an e-file capability. We know that the FDA is going in this direction, and we know that our partners in the European regulatory agencies are also going in this direction. So companies are making the pivot right now, right, with an eye to the future, knowing that in about 2 or 3 years, e-file is going to be standard operating procedure. So being able to do these things in a cloud-based secure system really provides a lot of efficiency gains for our partners out there in the industry, and also makes it really easy to make sure that we're hitting those strict regulatory timelines. Because the last thing any of our partners in the space want to do is run afoul of the regulatory agencies. So now that we've had a chance to kind of talk a little bit about some of the trends that we've seen out there in the industry, I've also mentioned a few of the different challenges and pain points that we've seen. We're going to have my colleague, Dr. Ajit Patel, talk about how and why Salesforce is being used, not only to solve and address the challenges that we've talked about, but to capitalize on some of these trends and make our processes and our safety operations more efficient and lean. So Dr. Ajit, please take it away.
Sure, yeah. Thank you so much, Dushyant. It was very informative kind of slides, right? So, okay, all right, folks, let's deep dive and talk about the platform on which our Cloudbiz safety solution has been built. So I think majority of us already know about Salesforce, but if not, then let me tell you what is Salesforce. So Salesforce is a cloud-based technology, a multi-solution platform that is designed to help businesses. Whether you are promoting a service, selling a product, organizing a community, or having an end-to-end solution, Cloudbiz has leveraged Salesforce, a Salesforce kind of platform to build advanced and innovative solutions to help health and life science industry. So this platform helps you to keep a track on all your organizational data, product and client information, ensuring that nothing falls through the cracks. So with help of vast range of their clouds, products and out of the box features, some of which I have mentioned on this slide. So they make sure that they help to their clients. So it's very innovative platform with customer centricity at its core. Platform is highly configurable, extremely flexible, and incredibly scalable. And the best part is it's totally compliant to all the regulations, making it widely adoptable in life sciences industry. So, and the same platform is being leveraged by Cloudbiz to provide a world-class safety solution. Let's understand that in next slide. Leveraging a proven platform to build out a capability or fully equipped solution natively using the Salesforce declarative methods, which makes it a low code or no code kind of application. So we have incorporated the advanced features in our safety solutions like a single sign-on, two-factor or multi-factor authentication, IP login restrictions, advanced threat detection, etc., etc. So we'll understand these features in later segment of this presentation. Dushyant, next slide, please. So based on the trends we have seen in the industry, our company has developed an end-to-end solution to address the variety of challenges and pain points, which Dushyant has already shared while talking about trends in earlier slides. So Cloudbiz safety solution is a cloud-based solution that leverages industry standard best practices. Our product allows you all the way from capturing events, assessing them, and all the way through regulatory submissions and KPI generation. Connecting with external system, approval processes, history tracking, audit trail, which is nothing but a history tracking, auto task and notification generation, email templates, data backup. These are some of highlighted feature of our product. Our system comes with user-friendly adjudication process, which accommodates all your device safety workflow steps, which includes filling out assessment form, managing automated tasks, queuing any narrative, managing source document, etc. Not only that, you can incorporate medical dictionaries such as Medra and Who Drug into our safety solution, which will make your job of medical coding easy and in-house. As a device manufacturing company, you must be having a lot of requests from regulatory authorities for different kind of regulatory documents in different file formats. So our system is capable of generating such reports on click of a button, which will pull the data from different sources like data related to subject, devices, clinical study, or sites. So I can name a couple of such reports such as DSMB, complaint handling, CEC notification, so on and so forth. So these auto-generated reports would certainly save your time and effort significantly. As mentioned earlier, our safety system sits on top of Salesforce platform. That means we can leverage Salesforce encryption and security capabilities. It also really nicely works with Salesforce Health Cloud. Although our solution does not need to use Health Cloud to run on this platform. We are fully validated and fully compliant Salesforce ISV partner, and that allows us to give you all the best-in-class feature that Salesforce offers. Our system can be used by study managers, investigators, medical monitors, medical safety officers, data managers, and adjudicators. You can see on this slide. So the best part is it is seamlessly compatible with tablets, laptops, and mobile devices. Next slide, Dushyant. Yeah. So here are some of our clients that we have been able to help with our innovative solutions. We helped companies like such as Edwards Life Sciences, Parexel, American Source Burgeon, and WCCT, and many more. We are actually we are growing rapidly. Next slide. Yeah. So we would like to close this phase of presentation with a quick customer success story. Deliberately, we are not using their name to maintain their confidentiality. So basically, they are a sponsor and having a global presence in over a dozen countries. They manufacture Class 3 life-saving medical devices, including surgical implants and artificial heart valves. The challenge they were facing was they were actually struggling to efficiently capture and process and report adverse event and device deficiencies. They were relying on some legacy system to carry out these processes and spending a lot of time, resource, efforts, and most importantly, money in maintaining the legacy system and spreadsheets. They wanted some advanced and fast system to overcome these challenges. And Cloudbiz worked with them and to implement the Cloudbiz safety solution. Users are now able to capture adverse event and assess them in record time. They can now store the source document within the system, complete the narratives, and export it in PDF and doc file formats. They can also send the email notifications to complaint handling team with the predefined and mail merged email templates. They had a team to build a final report, which they used to submit to regulatory agencies, and that had some human errors every time. So our system helped them to generate a final report with 100% accuracy. They can now trigger automated tasks and email alerts within seconds. So management have full visibility on every single piece within the system. End of the day, our safety solution is helpful to save time, save money, and to make better device safety decisions. So with that being said, I would like to request my colleague Dushyant if he can give us a high-level walkthrough of our safety solution, and then we can go on for Q&A session. Over to you, Dushyant.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that great information, Dr. Ajit. That was great. All right, folks. So so now we've come here to this part of the kind of discussion where we just kind of want to talk you through some of the features that were mentioned by my colleague there, and also talk through some of how by partnering with Salesforce, the Cloudbiz solution built 100% on Salesforce can address some of the challenges and capitalize on some of the trends that we spoke about earlier. So what you're looking at right now is the homepage of our cloud-based safety system, right? So this homepage is fully customizable, right? So what we have here is we've set up for you a dashboard, right? So every single piece of data that we enter into the system can be reported on, and these reports can be collated into dashboards. And I'll be coming back to this at the end to kind of speak on it a little bit more. Well, I'd like to bring your attention to the right side of the screen. We have a few different tools to help our users start their day off right. Because when we were building this system, we knew that a system like this, a safety system, is something that many of our users are going to be using every single day. It's going to be part of their workflow. So they would log into their machines, right? And then probably the first or second thing they would do is log into the system to see what they have to do for the day. So with that in mind, we have a few things to help that process. We have a little notes section right here to capture things like to-dos or to capture notes that maybe you have, in a meeting, we have here the ability to see the events for the day. There is a calendar component in our system as well. So as you can see, my user here has a couple of meetings later on today, right? They can also see their tasks and their items to approve. So again, this kind of really helps sets the tone, right, for kind of what they're looking for. As soon as they log in, they get to see, all right, I know what I have to do. I know my events, I know my tasks, I know what I have to approve. And this really helps them kind of prioritize and set what needs to happen in the system. And this will make a little bit more sense, especially the tasks portion, as we go a little bit further. So let's kind of move and let's talk about clinical studies, right? So I just want to briefly talk about how we can bring in clinical study data, but more importantly, talk about how different data relationships can be set up in our system to make sure that we're able to report meaningful data and also make the system really easy to use for our end users. So as discussed earlier, many of our partners are heavily involved in either pre-market or post-market. So they do have a need to track clinical study information. So we make that really simple. Right? We have some basic information about this given clinical study right here. But the important thing that we can do is be able to link this data in multiple different ways. So clinical study is going to be linked to multiple clinical sites, right? These sites will be capturing AEs, DDs, and etc., what have you, right? But we can also link this at the subject level, right? Because we know that adverse events are always going to have a subject, or DDs are always going to have a subject kind of associated with them. So we have this right here. And obviously we can track at the study level these different adverse events. Not just that, but we can bring in different kinds of documents in here as well and associate these right as well. So again, what we're doing here is making the system more powerful in terms of what it can report, but also giving a logical kind of layout. So that way, no piece of data is orphaned in our system, right? Whether we're talking about clinical studies or we're talking about clinical sites or cases or adverse events, everything in our system is linked up to one another in a way that makes sense and makes it really easy to kind of navigate. So now that we've spoken a little bit about clinical studies, I'd like to talk about cases. So as we know, right, in the safety space, oftentimes we're starting off with a case. The case intake process is really the first step in any sort of safety workflow, right? So here we have the ability, our system comes with a robust multi-channel intake for our cases, right? So whether it's from a website, whether it's from a portal, whether it's from just phone calls, and it can be kind of manually entered, or it's coming from an EDC, our system supports all of that. And you can see that we can capture a whole bunch of great information right here to make sure that our case triage and case processing can happen right here within the system. As discussed, we can link up subjects, but not just that, we can link in lab data here as well. Right? So you have the full suite of kind of tools to make sure that your monitors and your kind of safety officers have all the information that they need. We can bring in case comments, right? So if you have a comments, all of these can be tracked in the system. We can kind of sort these by created date, and we can have full visibility into what's going on into our case, right? So we're a big goal of our system, and you'll hear me say this maybe a couple other times, is to take us out of the emails and the IMs and other systems that we may be using, and kind of bring all of our operations into one cloud-based system to provide for full visibility. Right? Because in emails they can get lost, IMs are usually private, right? But here, the appropriate users can see everything, for example, the comments, right, that they need to see. So once a case kind of turns into an adverse event, in our system, it becomes a different kind of record. It becomes an adverse event record. And then we can do kind of different things with that. So I'll show you that in just a sec. Just want to also talk about some things here. We have queries at the case level. We also have queries at the adverse event level, which we'll be showing you. And at anywhere in our system, we have the ability to bring in these approval workflows, right? So perhaps if prior to a case becoming an adverse event or something like that, if you need to have some sort of approval workflow, if that is your current SOP, that can happen in our system very easily. You saw on the homepage, there's items to approve as well. So it's very simple. We just click a button and we can submit this for approval. This can go to one user, a group of users, right? It can be one step, it can be multi-step, what have you. All right, so that's it about cases. Let's jump into the really fun stuff here and that is the adverse event. All right, so there's a lot to talk about here and there's not that much time. So I am going to go a little bit quickly to make sure that I'm capturing all the great information that you can see on your screen right here. All right, so first things first, folks, let's talk about this specific adverse event. All right, it's a prolonged QT. We know that this is connected to the CRAS clinical study, right? So if we come down here, we have some ID fields, we have an event type, right? So the first thing I'd like to show you is that if we say that, you know what, we think that this adverse event is serious, we can go ahead and we can check this serious box right here, and I'll click save. And we'll see that this reporting timeline, right, automatically turns here, into red. So this is telling us, hey, this is, an SAE, you better get moving, right? So if I come here, I can change this SAE date, right? It was, originally assessed as the 18th of October, right? So if I go maybe, let's make this for a second, a couple of days out into the future, we see that this is yellow, right? So this is saying, so, right, if the SAE date was assessed as such on the 18th, if it's been about 4 days, we know that a 7-day SAE reporting timeline, you're already kind of behind the 8 ball, so to speak, right? So our system will automatically turn this SAE timeline graphic to yellow. We can also set up automated emails and notifications to go out to certain users, right? So it would say something like the prolonged QTAE has been assessed. It's been assessed 4 days ago, and there's been no change in the status. So please go and review. Right, and let's say that we get all the way here to the 25th, right? We see here that it turns red, and this is telling us, uh-oh, be careful, right? We are already at the 7-day limit. So these are the kinds of things that our system can do, right? It really helps kind of keep track of where you are in your reporting timelines to ensure that you're meeting those very strict deadlines that the regulatory agencies have. All right, so let's change this back now. Let's put this back to the 18th so we don't see that angry red bar. Save. All right, so coming down here, right, folks, we have the ability to kind of set as inactivated certain events in our system, right? So again, this can come from the EDC or the third-party data source, or if you're doing the data inside of our system, we can set this up here. But when I set this as inactivated, what happens is the system tells me with a bright red banner, hey, this is inactivated, right? And not only that, we can lock all the fields here that you see and make sure that nobody can touch this event. It's essentially, it's inactivated. It cannot be touched by anyone, right? We can only come here and only the system admin or the power user would be able to come here and change the status. All right, so let's click save. We see that once I uncheck that box, that goes away. Our system also comes with a duplicate check ID, right? We know that sometimes this can be an issue with some other systems, right? Where sometimes people may be putting in the same ID a couple of times, right? And that will cause real problems for you as you kind of try to report down the road. So let's take this example. Right, our system can use any kind of ID field that exists at the AE or the DD level and kind of make a duplicate check validation rule. And you can see here that the system automatically tells me that, hey, a similar record exists, right? So we need to kind of close that, take care of this. So this really helps us to make sure that we're not, entering in data that already exists in our system. And this comes out of the box as a standard feature. All right, so if I click here on the additional fields, right, we see that there is more information that we can kind of put in our system here that we can capture as part of the adverse event. Right, so if I scroll down, I have some event information here that I can kind of give, right? I have some seriousness criteria, right? And so kind of based on these, on the data that we have in the system, we can fill out this information, or it can be brought over from a third-party data source. So again, you have multiple options there. Our system comes with the ability to do event coding, right? So we do have the ability to kind of do, whether it's Medra or Udra, any kind of coding in our system. So that process can happen directly in safety. Right? And we can capture all kinds of other information, including procedure, hospitalization, nature of events, etc. All right, so I'd like to bring your attention here to the top right of the screen, and we can do a whole bunch of things right here. And in fact, something I declined to talk about was the ability to generate regulatory reports. So sorry, just a second, I'm gonna go back here to the clinical study since we're talking about these reports, and the ability to kind of generate both XML as well as MDCG reports upon the click of a button. So let's start with the MDCG. You can click this button right here. For those of you who may not know, this is the Medical Device Coordinating Group. This is something that many of our partners in Europe, if you're having studies there, if you're based in Europe, you have to comply to these regulations, right? So oftentimes you have to send this up to 2 times a week for active studies. All right, so let's go ahead and let's kind of generate this. These are some of the dynamic fields that we can set in the MDCG table itself. And if I click generate, what's going to happen is that this is going to kind of go ahead and open up for me right here. This is the MDCG table, right? And so we have here all of the different data that lives in the safety system, right? The source of truth for this MDCG is the Cloudbiz safety system. And our system can generate this MDCG upon the click of a button, as you just saw, and give you the full functionality. So for those of you who may be familiar with this regulatory report, you know that, right, you may have strike throughs if there are inactivated data, right, and all that other stuff. So all of that can be housed in our system. It's fully dynamic. And as Dr. Ajit mentioned a little while ago in the customer success story, we saw that oftentimes there is human error when this is done kind of manually, but when it's kind of generated, it's taking data that already exists. So if the QC process is proper for the data in the system, you know that your MDCG is going to come out accurate and kind of showing us the data that we want to see right here. So this is one of the things that we can accomplish when we have a single centralized cloud-based system to house our safety data. Right, so that's just one example of what we can do. I'd like to quickly talk about the XML here as well. We do have the ability, sometimes we know that this is something that some partners are looking for, right, is the ability to generate an XML output from the system. So we have here the ability to select adverse events, right, or kind of manually, or you can do it using a start date and end date kind of delimiter. Right? You can also filter by inactive. But just for this purpose here today, let's quickly click export. And what we see here is a full XML output from the safety system, right, that can be used in any other system or can be kind of generated for regulatory submission as well. So again, these are the kinds of efficiencies that we gain, right, when we're leveraging the cloud-based safety system. All right, so apologies for that tangent there, but I just, seeing these kind of brought that back up for me. So, right, so as discussed, right, we have different regulatory reports at the study level or at a higher level, and then oftentimes we have them at the individual report level as well, sometimes called ICSRs. Right, so we have a few different ones here. We do have the generate MedWatch, and we can generate and we can e-file this in our system, right, again, upon the click of a button. Right, so super quick, super easy for us to do. We can generate other things like CIOMs and SUSAR as required. All right, so let's talk a little bit now about the activity section here. And we can discuss some of the tasks, right? So, and actually, let's do this real quick. I'm gonna come here. And as we're discussing about the task, you'll see how easy it is in our system to be able to kind of leverage data that might already be coming over in the form of CRFs, either from an EDC or that gets kind of created right here in our system. And we can go ahead and we can generate tasks or create tasks on the fly to help make sure that our process is being followed. So let's take this example. What you're looking at here is a specific DD form for this event that we have right here. Right, so this form is actually being integrated from a third-party data source. And as such, we cannot make any changes to the system, or excuse me, to this data. Because what we've said is for this use case, the end user should not be able to make any changes. This is coming over wholesale as is from that third-party data system. But now that we have this information here, the activity widget on the right-hand side allows us to create these different tasks or emails, right, based on some of this information. We also have the ability to automate this process, which you'll see in just a second. So let's take the example right here that we have these different tasks, right? So as you can see, I have a couple that are upcoming and overdue for me. Let's say that this task, send the complaint handling email, which I'll show you in just a second. Let's say that I completed this. Once I click the little check mark here, it gets stricken through, right? And this is done. But I can also see what else happened this month, as well as going back in the past. And this is talking about the ability to collaborate, right, on these adverse events. All the data that you need is housed in just one place for you. All right. But not only that, folks, I can go ahead and I can set up an email. So let me send this email right now to, let's take Jane Doe, right? Let's call this a complaint email. So let's say that, in this case, let's say that this AE, we think that it might indeed be a complaint, right? We don't think it's actually a complaint email. So, excuse me, an actual adverse event. So what I can do in the system is use a mail merge template that brings in data that already exists in our event, puts it into the form of an email upon just one click, right? And once I click send, the system automatically captures a record of this email being sent out, right, folks? So you can see right here in the October section, I have my task, but now I see I have a complaint handling email that's been sent out from the safety system. So let's click into this and get a little bit more information. Right, so I have my email right here in the body, right? I have all the information, and then I have details. When I click into the details, I get to know some of this metadata. When was it sent? To whom was this email sent to? Right? I have here the message content as well. I also have the HTML body. Everything here is captured for me in the system, and it is automatically linked to the adverse event in question. So again, you have all of this information, and it's always going to be tied back to the event that you're talking about. And our system even tells you if your email has been opened or not, right? So you can know exactly what's going on in your workflow. All right, so let's move on, right? So this example, as I said, we can't make any changes to this DD form. However, when I come to, let's get this refreshed real quick. So when I come to the sponsor assessment form, folks, what you'll actually see is the ability for users to go ahead and edit this CRF inside of the system, right? So the AE form, we couldn't do anything. The DD form, we couldn't do anything. But here, the sponsor assessment, we're able to go ahead and make edits right here to this data, right? And based on some of our responses here, so let's say that this led to injury. Let's say that this is indeed probably related, right? And click complete assessment. Based on some of the entries here that I've made to my sponsor assessment, different tasks can be automated in the safety system, right? So we have about 16 different tasks that have been created for me, right? And you'll see that some of these have been completed, but we also know who they're going to. We know the priority, and this can be set up right in the system. So let's say that for a given study, you know that 2 different users need to be involved in any case of an AE, right? Anytime there's an AE, these folks are involved kind of doing the workflow. So that means that anytime there are changes to that sponsor assessment form, these folks have to be notified. We can set that up in the system. It can come here for you in the form of different notifications that we have here, as you can see, right? And systems or users can be notified via email or via the system itself. And these tasks, as you saw, they can be completed, they can be tracked. And we can also create reports and dashboards to keep an eye on how quickly these tasks are actually being closed out by our different users. All right, so let's quickly jump into the narratives. We know that oftentimes the narrative QC process can be sometimes lengthy, can be sometimes difficult to kind of do, right? So our system gives you the ability to bring in this information either from EDC or you can create it right here. And it gives you the full rich text capability. So once you're satisfied with all of this information, once you've done your different QCs, maybe you do a couple of tasks. Once you're happy with it, you can finalize this narrative, and a PDF of this will be created for you in the documents section right here. So automatically in one place, it's all being housed for you. You can see right here, I have my narrative, right? I have the PDF right here, right? And I have all this different metadata associated, including the site and the study that it's associated to. All right, so let's go back. All right, so that's the narratives. Let's quickly talk about source documents right here. Right, so we've seen in the industry a lot of folks are using third-party systems, perhaps a SharePoint or something like that, to house their source documents. Well, we can do this right here, right? So the system comes with the ability for you to track the source documents that are being requested and when they're being received. Right, so we see here that we have 3 already here, but let's take this example. Let's say that I requested it today, and let's say that I got super lucky and I actually got the document I was looking for right on the same day, right? So let's click submit right here. So what the system does is it knows, okay, you have said that there is indeed a document that has been received. It came today. You should be able to upload it into the system. So it gives you the button to upload. And I'm going to go here and grab this document. Right, now that I've uploaded it, it turns into a preview button, and we can preview this document directly right here from this screen. You don't even have to go back to the Documents tab that I just showed you. All this information kind of lives right here in the system, and it's really easy for you to access, right? And we can build reports and dashboards on top of this data to tell us, for a given adverse event, how many documents are requested but not received, and then how many documents have been both requested and received. So that way, management kind of stays on top of what's going on in terms of the source docs. All right, so we have a few other pieces here to kind of talk about. We had the site contacts that we can associate. So this makes it really easy for you. If you're sending out these emails like we discussed, you don't have to kind of go back to your Outlook or something. This information is right here. And I just want to finish up kind of talking about the audit trail, right? We know how important this is for any validated system in the health and life sciences space. Our system is, of course, no different. You have the full ability to see all the different changes happening in the system, who did them and when, right? So everything's being tracked. All the various changes are always being kind of tracked by our system. So you never have to ask the question, hey, what happened to my adverse event? All right, so folks, with that said, let's kind of finish up here as promised. Let's talk a little bit about dashboard, and it looks like we have, we'll have enough time for pretty good Q&A. So we have the master safety dashboard right here that you previously saw on the home page, and all the data that I've been talking about can be recombined into these meaningful and pretty nice to look at kind of dashboards. Right, so we have all kinds here. We have events by priority. We have the number of cases by study. If you're using that as a metric, you have new adverse events, right? So all of your KPIs, all of your metrics, whether they're operational, whether they're clinical, all of that stuff can be created right here. And these are done through, drag and drop and clicking. Right, this is for these reports. So we set these up for you as part of any implementation, but we also train your super users and your admins how to create these on their on their own. So they can create these on the fly, and really makes things nice and easy for kind of management or those people who may be not involved in the day-to-day to always keep a track about what's happening, right? It's a 360-degree visibility into the full system. So for those users, right, who might be let's say kind of more at the management level, they're not the ones kind of logging into the system every day. We give them the ability to subscribe to these dashboards, right? So let's say that I want to see this every week, Monday at, let's say 9 a.m. only on Monday. I want this weekly. I can set up the subscription, and this dashboard will be sent to my inbox. All the images will be sent to my inbox, and I'll have the links to click through. So as a user, I would never have to even log into the system if I chose to, right? I have the full ability to kind of go through and do this, have the subscription section right here. All right. So that's it about the dashboards. Do we have some questions that we'd like to kind of have answered in the chat?
questions, which already answered by Dinesh and me. So yeah, we are good so far.
All right, fantastic. Cool. So folks, so this is the system, as discussed, right? We did kind of do this kind of quickly, right? So that way we, had some time for the question and answer portion of this discussion. If you're interested in kind of learning more about our system, please feel free to kind of contact us, right? And we'd love to sit with you and go through a real deep dive and kind of see how the cloud-based safety system can be a value add, right, for you and your organization. But it sounds like we do have a little bit more time. So let's kind of go through a couple other pieces of the system right here, right? So I did discuss the clinical studies aspect of this, right? But we have kind of clinical sites as well. Right, so, as discussed, the system comes with the full kind of clinical trials kind of capability. So if I choose, let's go from here actually. So if I choose a clinical site, let's go with the browser. Right, we have these, we have the ability to kind of link, AEs, subjects, documents, and contacts, again, all from the system. So the system comes with the full suite of these capabilities. So Dr. Ajit, do we have some questions? Excuse me. Do we have some questions?
Yes, Tushan. Yes, Tushan. So we have one question coming from one attendees. He's asking, like, how, let me read the question. Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, Dushyant, it's about how does the Cloudbiz system monitor the risk happening in the clinical study and the site level, and how do you mitigate those risks, right? So that's the question.
Yep, that's a great question. Right, so our system does come with some risk-based monitoring capabilities, right? Kind of using the inbuilt functionality of Salesforce to be able to kind of do that for you. So let's say that you have a risk-based threshold that you may be kind of meeting, right? So let's say that a site has 5 AEs in the course of a month, and you set in the system that if it hits 5 in 1 month, let's go ahead and generate, like a warning email. Maybe that starts a CAPA process, right, for your QMS, and things like that. So we can kind of program those things into the system, and those will be based on internal risk-based kind of thresholds. But that is a great question, and we can kind of enable that at any different level, whether you want it at the product level, let's say, or you want it at the study level or at the site level. All of that can be kind of programmed. So yeah, that's a great question. Dinesh, I'm not sure if you wanted to maybe add to that.
That's correct, Dushyant. You mentioned it properly. So I think our system does come with the predefined risk templates where you can define the risk categories and risk thresholds, and the solution can help you automate, monitor those triggers, and then solution also helps you to set up the mitigation plans and alert mechanisms, and also the mitigation plans, notifying the right stakeholders and assigning them the next step of actions until that particular risk is addressed. And also the same risk can also be transferred over to QMS systems if the customers are using QMS and they want to implement CAPA. As part of that, and that particular risk can be transferred over to QMS systems to further closure of that particular assessment and risk as well.
Fantastic, thank you for that.
Thanks for the explanation, Dinesh. Okay, so so another attendee is asking Dinesh about, we talked about, our system can be used by different users, right? So how does the user role and permissions has been handled in the Cloudbiz safety solution?
That's a great question, actually. So that's one of the most powerful feature of the Salesforce platform, where each user in the platform comes with the profiles and permission sets, which is completely configurable with the point and click configurations, where you can actually define the security model, both from the application visibility standpoint, the data visibility standpoint, even to the level of the each field visibility standpoint. So pretty much you can set up a profiles and you can assign those profiles, security profiles, to the users based on their roles and responsibilities, the way they should interact with the system. So with that, the right information is showed to the right user to make sure that they are performing their activities within their visibility. And at the same time, right, in addition to not only from the data visibility standpoint or application visibility standpoint, you can also apply additional security models such as um, including where they can access the system from. You can actually set up a network IP access, for example, right? Where you want them to access the system, where you want to block the system access, so on and so forth. All of these features are part of the the native Salesforce platform, and which basically helps very granular level of security model definition for your users.
Thank you so much, Dinesh. So one attendee is asking question, Dushant, about the the KPIs and how is it helpful for managers and people who are key decision makers.
Yep, absolutely. So one of the real kind of value adds in the system, as we mentioned, is the ability to create these reports and dashboards. But these KPIs, right, what they can really help us do is in kind of task management and workflow automation, right? So as we discussed, when talking about the operational metrics and things like that, it really helps for managers to be able to see at a granular level what's going on. So let's take the example of the tasks that we had created, right? You can definitely see a kind of report where it would say, all right, for a given adverse event, there were 16 tasks that were assigned to 3 different users. The assigned date was, let's say, the 18th. And, by the time everything got done, right, it was like the 25th. Right, so it took 7 days or 5 business days for this to happen. So you can see how a manager, when they have access to that granular level of data, they're able to make really much better decisions about resourcing, right, or about their kind of workflows, right? Why is it taking so much time for us, perhaps, to go through the end-to-end, adverse event workflow, right? How come that adjudication process is taking so long? What can we do to, kind of lessen that, right? Because if you're not tracking it, right, you're not able to kind of fix anything about it, right? You don't know what you don't know, and our system really helps from like a management perspective or from the C-suite perspective, be able to see from operations what's going on, right? And better yet, they can use that data to help them to improve their operations and see what needs to be tweaked for them to become more efficient and more lean. So yeah, good question.
Perfect. Thanks, Dushant. So Dinesh, one attendee is asking about since this safety system is built on top of cloud-based technology, so how are you handling the storage limits and its nuances?
That's a great question. So that's the beauty of the the scalable cloud platform. So because the bringing in the elasticity of the both the platform as well as the data storage. So the Salesforce platform, each user comes with the pre-allocated space of the data, and that's pooled as to overall the instance data storage capacity. At any point of time, you can expand that particular data capacity to as and when you start collecting more and more data points in the system, and the data storage can be expanded at the later stage. You don't have to allocate any kind of space, but it can automatically extend. You can extend that capacity based on your needs. By default, there is X number of GB data, the capacity available. You can extend that the moment you reach, when you know that you reached 75%, 80% of that capacity, then you can expand that to add as much capacity as you can.
Great answer, Dinesh. So Dushant, one attendee is asking about the external users. The question is, how are external users given access to the system, and what all capabilities you can open for them?
Yep. So this is something that we kind of hear from a lot from our implementation partners, and we do indeed have the ability to create different kinds of portals to provide access. Either, let's say, it's at the site level if you want to have your site users access the system, or your HCPs perhaps maybe some of them who are not, kind of with their company, if they need to access the system, we can kind of grant that through the portals. And so unfortunately, we didn't have time to kind of go through that here today, but if you're interested in that, we would love to kind of talk more about it and show you that. But the real value add there, folks, is the ability to kind of leverage the portals to make sure that those users can only see data that they have access to. So let's take the example of a site. Perhaps a site should only see data related to that specific site, right? And we can set that up in our system, as Dinesh was talking about, right? The ability to have very granular permissions really comes in handy there. So, yep. So we oftentimes set up these portals so that way different users can have access, and they're not fully credentialed, but they have access to the full suite. So perhaps if they need to create an adverse event, they can do so. If they need to access a dashboard, they can do so, so on and so forth. And it's very tightly controlled. So if this is something that you're kind of looking for, it's definitely achievable.
Cool. Yeah. So Dushyant, I think we are on top of time and we have answered most of the questions. I think almost all questions we have answered. So I think we can conclude today's lunch and learn session.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining. Hope this was a good kind of value add for everyone here. So yeah, we look forward to kind of hearing from you. If you have any questions or if you'd like a demo, please feel free to reach out, and we'd love to talk with you. So with that, I hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everyone.